It's frozen again. Oh, and we're live. Thank goodness. Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight here on Southbound, just past 9 p.m. A footnote at the top of the show, and it is never nice, especially when it's someone so young, for these things to happen. But, as per all the news outlets, I'm sure people are aware in the NFL, but a young 24-year-old Dallas Cowboys player, Marshawn Nealand, has tragically lost his life. I'm not going to speculate on anything because obviously we don't know the situation. There's probably more and more news updates, but just condolences to his family and friends and to the Cowboys organisation. I know we're a little podcast, but these things are so important. It's always, you can always talk to someone. If you feel like you can't, there's always someone there. Even our DMs are open 24/7. I'll just leave a little breath there. And now we can carry on with the show because I think that's fair. Joining us, a special guest we'll introduce her in a minute to talk about the Sauce Gardner trade. As you can see by Nathan's name, very cleverly put. Might get that printed on some T-shirts just for the Germany chip alone. And I'll introduce her in a minute. But Nathan, Ed, if Chris Ballard's way of coping with a terrible loss is binge spending, then do we need to lose more games?
Man, I mean, I'll be honest. So I found out about this trade via like a group chat that I'm in with friends and kind of, talk about American football in there. And I thought it was a wind up. It took me about 30 seconds to kind of go to the standard places and be like, holy shit, like this has happened. Like we've got Sauce Gardner. It was crazy, and it still doesn't feel truly real. And it's like the stars have aligned because we're gonna be in Berlin watching Sauce Gardner play. It's just like, what is going on? What did you think, Ed?
Much the same. I spent most of the day refreshing my phone. I put it down for about, I'm not even joking, I put it down for about 5 minutes to go and cook my kids' tea. I've come back and I must have had, I don't even know how many messages, but the first one that flagged up was the one from you saying we've traded 2 firsts. I was like, and I don't think I've ever unlocked my phone faster. Like, what the hell is going on? Where's Chris Ballard? Like, what has he done? And who? And then when I saw it, I could not believe it. I mean, yeah, unbelievable. Really pleased. Position of need, and just a top player, which I'm sure we're going to get into tonight. So yeah, absolutely buzzing. But yeah, put my phone down for 5 minutes, and it all kicked off. What about you, Harrison?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty much the same for me. As in, I saw Nathan's message at, I can't remember what time. I can't remember what time. Was it the night time you sent that, or was it the morning?
It was tea time because I was cooking the kids' tea.
Yeah. So I saw that message and I was like, he's having me on here. we've just not. We've not. The Colts don't do that. Like, you're stupid. I'm like, he's been done by a fake AI Twitter account or something. And I was like, so I had to Google it, and I saw, I believe it was Schefter or Rappaport, one of the two. And I didn't know what to do. I literally was like, okay. But now joining us, lads, is a guest who can actually explain it a bit more about Sauce Gardner himself and the Jets and where they're going. She's very kindly agreed to come on our show, as we are 3 Colts fans. She's a Jets fan, so we get to pick her brain about the New York Jets. It's not just any fan of the New York Jets, it's the International Fan of the Year for the New York Jets, the pick introducing New York Jets. Everyone, welcome. Liv, how is it?
Hi, I'm very good. Thanks for having me on. How are you guys? No doubt in a great mood.
Yeah, it feels a bit surreal right now.
Yeah.
Liv, I'm not gonna lie.
It's one way to get over a terrible loss in Pittsburgh, I'll tell you that. Liv, do you just want to introduce yourself, who you are, what you do? You were just telling us before how you got to the Jets and eventually how you got to the main stage of the NFL draft.
Yeah, so very quickly, my name's Liv. I've been a Jets fan from around 2015, so I've seen literally nothing good. 'Cause it's just, I don't even think we've had a winning season since then. But yeah, so I am a Jets fan since around about then. I got into the Jets because my brother-in-law, he's American, and he actually played college football at Syracuse, right up in New York State.
Wow.
So he was a Jets fan, naturally became a Jets fan there. And yeah, and got involved with the fan club, and it's went from strength to strength. Obviously, the Jets were over in the UK this year. I know you guys will no doubt be looking forward to Berlin.
Yeah.
It's really special. Like, even if you lose the game, just the build up and everything, when you get to see your team in person, and luckily they have been in London past 2 years. And yeah, for 2024. As Harrison said, I am the Jets International Fan of the Year, which has been such an amazing experience. Got to announce our draft pick, Malachi Moore, safety out of Alabama, in Green Bay. Went to Green Bay for the full draft, and yeah, it's been a bit of a whirlwind year. And so trades, the past week or so, has been a bit manic. Especially, it started off with a really sad news of Nick Mangold passing, Ring of Honor player, absolutely devastating. Got our first win on that day, and then kind of the trade deadline, and everything has just went off. Nothing's ever normal with the Jets, so that's why I'm here to talk you through Sauce Gardner and everything that's just going on with New York at the moment.
Yeah, so we'll get into Sauce Gardner in a minute, but let's talk a little bit about your team, because I'm sure we bore our viewers to death talking about the Colts. So it's nice to talk about a different team, but Nathan said pre-season, I believe it was Nathan Red, I can't remember, but the Jets were either going to be going deep into the playoffs this year, or it was going to be burn it all down and start again. It seems, unfortunately, for you to be the latter option. As a Jets fan pre-season, what was you expecting?
It's an interesting one, because obviously new GM, new head coach, Aaron Glenn, former player for the Jets, drafted by the Jets himself, really bought into it by all accounts. Obviously made the big decision, getting rid of Rodgers, Devontae Adams, starting afresh. So it did feel a little bit like a new dawn. It was cautiously optimistic, because you could have, Andy Reid there, and I think it's going to be with the roster. It's not going anywhere. Like, the roster's just not where it needs to be, even though we've had blue chip players in Sauce, Quinn, etc. But there was a little bit of hope. A little bit seemed to be like new energy, new culture starting. And even if it's a rocky season, that's fine, as long as we're showing a bit of progress. As of now, it's obviously not turned out that way. 1-7, some really, really bad losses in there. Some close losses, some very interesting games as well. Justin Fields, very up and down, mostly down. It just feels like nothing has gone our way, but that's the Jets' way for the past 15, years. So it's not unexpected. It does feel a little bit like Groundhog Day, but it's not nice to say that we've burnt it down and we're starting again, and we've obviously got all these draft picks, 2026 and 2027. This does feel like there's a little bit of hope there that we can rebuild the roster, but as of now, it's very much the same old Jets. But it is what it is. This regime's got to put the stamp on their New York Jets, and how they've done that is by getting rid of some incredibly good players, but players that are just not on the same timeline as the current Jets. So yeah, it is a bit same old, but now after this past couple of days, there seems to be a little bit more of a plan and a little bit more of a vision for next year and the year after that.
Yeah, and before we get into the players, and before I let Nathan and Ed ask you a few questions, what's your impressions of Aaron Glenn? Because to me, he seems like a nice guy. He seems like he's got the community of the Jets behind him. But I don't know. This is from me looking on the outside as not knowing much about the Jets. So this is my lowest point of view of it. Is he just can't seem to get it going in the right direction.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think when you sat here with one win and you're in early November, that's an entirely fair account. And if we were trending in the same way, and we only get 3 or 4 wins, and it's one and done. You can't really have many complaints. For what it's worth, I think it's very, very unlikely that he does get fired, and I think Woody Johnson does have a lot of patience with head coaches, despite his reputation.
Yeah.
I think you can tell he's definitely a rookie head coach. You can tell he's learning on the fly. I think he's made some very good coaching hires. I think Tanner Engstrand's got a hell of a lot of potential. I think he's done some really nice stuff. So I'm quietly excited about him. And, ideally with a new quarterback next year. I think he's made some questionable decisions. Steve Wilkes' DC hasn't really played out so far as what we hoped. But I think he's learning. I think it's whether he can learn quick enough. That's the thing, because next year you've got to start getting wins. Like, fine, this is his first year. You're burning it all down. You're learning. You're getting the experience. But fans aren't patient. We've not made the playoffs since 2010, longest in American sports. Across the 4 major leagues. It's insane at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm hoping for a turnaround, but something drastic's got to change. And to be fair, the Jets have been drastic. So who knows? I'm kind of like, we will see, but my faith is waning a little bit. But it's still early days, isn't it? So it's a fair assessment, though, Harrison, to be honest.
Yeah. Nathan, Ed, any questions about the Jets before we get into the players and the trades?
Yeah. I'll go with one if that's all right. I guess maybe more of an opinion from you, Liv, really. So at the start of the season, Ed and I and Harrison did kind of like, an around the NFL. And when we got to the Jets, we were talking about how it kind of felt like Aaron Glenn was a very kind of desired hire, right? Because he was going to be able to bring some of the Lions DNA in. Yeah. And I think probably if I asked you this 10 weeks ago, maybe you'd be like, what are you talking about? But now when you've got like 5 first-round picks in the next 2 years, I mean, do you think that Glenn can kind of bring in this really rapid change of direction that we saw in Detroit, of course, under Dan Campbell, orchestrating a lot of it? But do you think that Glenn's got that kind of leadership in him?
Yeah, that is a really, really good question. I think the players, as of now, I think they have bought into him. Especially after the games against the Bengals, if you saw like the celebrations and what players were saying, he definitely did have the locker room. I don't know how much of that's changed, given like trading away arguably 2 of our best players. But if it's stayed the same, I think his one saving grace from this terrible start of the season is that Dan Campbell started so awfully as well. So I think a lot of people, maybe a bit of copium, have said, well, Dan Campbell started terribly and they turned it around, and they had they obviously traded for Jared Goff and drafted Hutchinson and had a crazy couple of draft classes that really turned it around in Detroit. That's what needs to happen with the Jets. However, and I'm not saying it can't happen, it does feel a little bit of an outlier. It feels like for every Detroit Lions, there's like 5 Cleveland Browns, and that's not a shot at the Cleveland Browns. Really feel for their fans. They're like Jets, but of the colour. Like, it does feel like it's probably, unless it starts like now, it's probably not going to happen. But you're right, the landscape has changed with all these draft picks. And, the next couple of draft classes are really intriguing. I'm a massive draft nerd, so I'm like, this is like my Christmas this week. So it'll be really interesting, but he has to start showing it now. And even though this roster is going to look completely different next year, he needs to start showing those leadership qualities, the ability to learn on the fly, the ability to manage the clock and, be a head coach. So it's still up in the air. I can't sit here and say, yeah, he'll do it, Dan Campbell, because it is unlikely statistically. But you never know. If you don't have hope, you have nothing in this, supporting a sports team. The Jets absolutely live on hope. Otherwise, we would all be like probably dead. So he's hoping. I'll probably leave it at that. He's hoping he can beat a Dan Campbell.
I mean,
Nice.
when we picked up Daniel Jones and we found out he was going to be the starter, not a single one of us thought it was going to go this way. So you never know. It's one player. And before I let Ed jump in with a question, just a quick one, Liv. You said you was a draft nerd. Is that one player going to be Norris Sellers, John Matei, Mendoza? Because are you moving on from Fields?
Now it's became more complicated because of our 2027 picks, and that is expected to be a much better QB class. So if you'd asked me a week ago, you're going for your Mendoza, Ty Simpson out of Alabama, but now there's a school of thought, and it really depends on how like the college playoffs and everything plays out. You've got a school of thought where you can say, oh, hang on, we're going to load up with talent. We don't quite like this quarterback class. 2027 should be much better, which is risky in itself. You don't know how it's playing out. We're going to load up with talent. We're going to move around, maybe make some trades for veteran players. And then 2027, because we've still got Justin Fields under contract next year, maybe bring a veteran to compete and have that bridge quarterback battle. And then 2027 could be the year where they say, right, we're going to make some big moves, get to the top of the board. But I think while that would be gutsy, I think realistically, if we're going to be in top 3 this year, which we probably will be, we're looking at my preferred players, Mendoza, Ty Simpson, then a little bit of a gap. So really depends how the end of the season plays out. I appreciate that's a cop-out answer. We've got flexibility now, so there's been some like thinking about trading for a veteran quarterback. Not sure who exactly that would be, but the Jets have now got options which we didn't previously. So that's why you make trades like this, is to have those options and to have those school of thoughts.
Potentially a second Manning in New York.
I hope not, but that's my personal preference. Maybe I think he'll go back to school. And I think his family will move heaven and earth to make sure that he does not touch, not MetLife because of the Giants, but will not wear a Jets jersey. I just cannot see that ever happening. Be interesting though. It would be very interesting.
Ed, have you got a question?
I was just on the draft and just listening there, because obviously I think it's quite obvious that quarterback's going to be where your focus is with this array of draft picks you now have. But I'm just interested, outside of quarterback, where would you say the biggest positional need would be? Because I look at the Jets, because I look at your last draft, for example, you took a couple of players I really liked. Like Membu was a player that we talked about a lot as a potential for the Colts. Mason Taylor at tight end was another option that we talked about extensively. You know, you've got talent on that roster, especially, Garrett Wilson, who I think is a fantastic wide receiver. I don't know if Breece Hall is still going to be there. I mean, I saw a few of his comments. A bit unsure there. But I'm just interested, where you've obviously now got rid of quite a few big players on defense, outside of quarterback, where would you say your biggest, or is it just a complete look, we'll just take the best player available?
Yeah, I think to me, instantly, what sticks out is Garrett Wilson, wide receiver. And the reason for that is because we've literally just got Garrett Wilson. If we were sat here and Garrett Wilson had been traded to the Colts, I think I would have been crying, because you don't. I personally, he is like my favorite player, a current Jet. He's bought in to be a Jet, which is something that's really nice. But wide receiver is shocking outside of him. There's a reason why we kept him. I think I'd like to attack that first round, second round, absolute latest. I think our offensive line for once is quite steady, quite stable. Yeah. Membu, fantastic player. There was a lot of debate with Jets fans between Tyler Warren and Membu. And
we're similar.
We did.
I really wanted Membu, and I'm glad we drafted him. But I was such like a Tyler Warren stan. Like, the fact that Loveland went over and was like, that was just prospect fatigue in a nutshell. That drove me insane. But that bit of a side note.
We were quite happy with that.
Yeah.
Someone in the Bears organization massively overthought that, but I digest. So wide receiver, now corner, obviously. I think we've got an okay group. Okay, potentially could be good. Thomas, who we drafted in the third round, will now play a much bigger role. Jarvis Brownlee, we picked up from the Titans, who absolutely hates the Titans. I'm sure you'll be glad to hear. All he does is go on Twitter and say how much he loves to be a New York Jet, which is when you know that he really really nice pickup. And Brandon Thomas, but we definitely do need reinforcements. Obviously now Sauce is gone. I think DT Quinnen's obviously gone to Dallas now, so our defensive line's looking a bit shaky. You're right, running back Brees Hall cannot wait to be gone, but he's probably going to get franchise tag. So good luck to him on that. He could have very nearly been a Kansas City Chief actually, and they wouldn't pay up. They were being cheap. So I think some definite positional needs that like so glaringly obvious. But I think we will get to a point where we'll be best player available because we are so barren. But that's why again you go and get those premium picks. You've got flexibility to go.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and so yeah, it's a complete rebuild, but with some like asterisks in there.
You have got AD Mitchell now though. He's gone the other way.
Yes, of course. Intriguing. I really liked him coming out. Obviously hasn't lived up to the second round pick, but really intriguing. I saw
Talent's there.
Yeah. And the Colts wide receiver room is obviously not allowed to
start.
Yeah. It's an interesting one. I'm glad we've got him in the trade. I think it's a low risk for the Jets. Like
100%.
If he doesn't do anything, then you've not lost anything. If he becomes like a solid player or at least like a rotational player, amazing. Like it's better than what we've got now. Fresh start for him, good size, bit different to what we've got at the minute. So why not? It's very similar to what we did with the Eagles and the John Mechie trade. Low risk, high medium reward, let's say. But yeah, maybe this is the place where players come and resurrect the career. The New York Jets, who'd have thought it?
I mean, I don't think there's many Colts fans that will wish AD bad. You know, it was just one of those just didn't work out. Like you say, our wide receiver room is pretty well stocked. He wasn't getting much for looking, and he as soon as he dropped that ball against LA, it was over for him pretty much. He was never getting another opportunity because we had too many other options. But good luck to him. The talent is 100% there, and he could be a very good NFL player, no doubt about it.
Yeah, so let's break it down then. So for those who don't know, or if you're just not Colts or Jets fans, then you might not know. But the blockbuster trade on trade line day was uncharacteristic from Chris Ballard. I'm trying to think if that was a real word then. 2 first-round picks, the 2026 and 2027, and AD Mitchell was sent to New York in return for arguably one of the best corners in the game, if you ask me, in Sauce Gardner. So we can break down AD Mitchell for you then, Liv, before we break down Sauce Gardner, because again, and I've said this plenty to the guys, I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about this trade and a lot of lack of nuance. I know your first takes and stuff have to be quite sharp and witty and clickbaity, but this trade is not about AD Mitchell. And I think that's where there's a big misunderstanding. You know, we've moved AD Mitchell because we needed to pay Alec Pierce, and you're going to pay Alec Pierce. It's just as simple as that. He's on track to get 1,000 yards this season with 40 catches. That is ridiculous. Like that, if it tracks. But so let's talk a little bit about AD Mitchell. I mean, as a Jets fan, like you were just saying then, that's low risk, low reward. But wide receiver is a position of need for New York at the minute. So you must think, I mean, I think it was a pretty fair price. Do you think it was a fair price, a good price? What are your initial thoughts on AD Mitchell? And what do you want to know about AD Mitchell from us?
So how, like, the trade was, like, announced, obviously, like, the 2 first rounders, and then AD Mitchell was kind of like a little bit of a side note. I think some reporters had him, like, the Jets received 2 first rounders, draft picks, and then it was like, and a player, and we were like, "Ooh, who's the player?" And it obviously turned out to be AD Mitchell, and I am intrigued by it. I think it's a good career move for him. I think in terms of as I've kind of talked about, the wide receiver room is wide open. Garrett Wilson is wide receiver 1, no one's touching him, but the rest is just, there's a lot of like wide receiver 3, 4s. If he played to his potential, which Granted, I haven't seen a ton of him in the NFL. I did really like him in college. If he played to his potential, at least some of that, he could very much solidify himself as wide receiver 2 at the Jets. Whether that's like an NFL kind of average wide receiver 2, I'm not sure, but there's opportunity for him. So yeah, he's just gone from a 7-2 team to a 1-7 team, but there's opportunity here, and there's the chance to really resurrect kind of his career a little bit. Not to say that he was terrible with the Colts by any stretch, but it was tough. So I suppose from you guys, I just wanted to think, like, what does he bring from like what you've seen over the past couple of years, and what would he really need to improve on as a player to make it here as a Jet?
So I'll go first, and then I'll let Ed and Nathan have their 2 cents on AD Mitchell. But for me, he's going to be great because he's not going up against cornerback ones as wide receiver 2. He's been frustrating at times, and he's not made. So we know the Colts receiving room is pretty good. Pittman with a fractured back last year, inconsistent quarterback play. Downs a couple of injuries here and there, and he's not managed to make a roster spot his, if that makes sense, which is quite worrying considering he's working with Reggie Wayne. And Reggie seems to have gotten the best out of the others. It's just a lot of people will look at that Rams game because that's the one under the magnifying glass, and I think he's so unfortunate that both penalties were on him, because 8 out of 10 times that holding call doesn't get thrown. The flag just doesn't get thrown, and it just happened to be the one time it did to compound his mistakes. I think Ed said it, the talent's there, and I think he needs playing time. He's not going to get that at Indianapolis, and I really do wish him to get the playing time that he deserves and that he needs to grow. And that's my sort of 2 cents on him. Ed, Nath?
Yeah, see, AD Mitchell's always been a player that I've had really high hopes for.
Yeah.
I think in the summer we chatted a lot about AD Mitchell and what a big year this was for him, because last year he flashed it. The flashes were there. And like you say, in college, when we got him in the second round, I was really excited.
We were all happy.
Yeah, 100%. Because like you said, Liv, he was really good in college. And I thought he probably went a little bit sort of later than was expected. Just hasn't worked out. There's, he's always open, but then he just wasn't making the plays, if that makes sense. Culminating in the Rams game is the one that's going to stick in people's minds. But what I would say about that is he made the catch in the first place. That's a catch that not many wide receivers can make. He then dropped it running across the goal line, which kind of summarised his career. Like, went from brilliant to idiotic in the space of 5 seconds. And that kind of sums up how he's been for the Colts. He's never really got going. By all accounts, though, listening to the players talking about him going, they've all spoken really highly of him and how they're going to miss him and what a character is in the locker room, which sort of speaks about his character and personality, which I think are sort of intangibles that you can't really put a price on. Especially when you're a team, with all due respect, that's maybe not where they want to be right now. You want those kind of good characters in there. So I think he'll do well. It's a good opportunity for him. The talent is there. He just needs to get on and do it. There were a few concerns last year about his maybe contact, sort of not wanting to get hurt, but that's maybe gone away a little bit this year. And like I say, he can make plays that other receivers, you watch him, you think, oh, wow. You just need to see more of it. And I think that's where, like Harrison said, the more snaps he plays, the more experience he gets, the more you'll see, the better he'll get. So I think you've got a good player there.
Nathan?
Yeah, look, Reggie Wayne loves him. I don't know if you've seen Reggie Wayne's interview today about it. He looks distraught. He looks truly just like as if he can't comprehend what's happened. Yeah, I think Ed put it really well. Last year, Anthony Richardson missed him a few times, wide open too. I think he'd have a few more scores under his belt if Richardson just put the ball there. In the off season, he was beating everyone in camp. Quite famously, famously for Colts fans, I wouldn't say outside of it. He was destroying Wiggins, the cornerback from Baltimore, when we had our joint practice. It's so bad, Liv, that Wiggins had to get benched off because his head just completely went. There's definitely a player there. I just think that the uncertainty at QB and kind of AR's inability to do the basics really impacted his rookie year. And we have a wide receiver called Ashton Doolin who really stepped up last year and kind of solidified what I think we all hoped AD Mitchell's spot would be. And that just hasn't led up this year. I'm really excited to see him in a new place. I just really hope he gets like wide receiver 2 reps, starting Sunday. I really hope that happens.
Can I just say one final thing on outside of Anthony Richardson, which has dominated the headlines around the Colts since he's been drafted pretty much. AD Mitchell's the one other player within that sort of sphere of not quite living up to the hype. I don't think any player's been talked about outside of Anthony Richardson more amongst Colts fans than AD Mitchell. Like the potential is there, no doubt about it. The potential is there. He just needs to realise it.
Yeah, I know. I think the best way to sum it up then is he's going to make plays where you're going to be gobsmacked by his athleticism, power, and ability, and then it's going to be a 5-yard slant route what he doesn't catch, and you. Just he's sort of the play where you're like, well, how did you not do the simple thing, but you made the one-handed spin around catch look like the easiest thing ever? He's going to be frustratingly good for you. Is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, that's all we have on AD Mitchell for you. Yeah, it just didn't work out, and I don't think it was a bad thing. It's just. And I think, like we've all said, if you ask anyone around the Colts, it's best wishes to him more than thank God he's out the building.
Yeah, which is good because, like you said, we're trying to build that culture, and the Jets are very much going, especially with the trades, very much going for solid. You know what you're getting, veterans, not kind of over the hill. So, like Harrison Phillips, for example, but we're primarily on low risk, high reward. I appreciate this is obviously with the source trade and stuff, so the risk maybe is a little bit different, but kind of maybe haven't worked out to the full potential or they haven't fitted in. But there is potential there, and unbelievably, New York can be a place where you can succeed. Obviously, Sauce has, Quinnen Williams has, Garrett Wilson has. Our offensive line. It's not like a place where careers go to die, or some careers. It can be. So he will get opportunity and he will get plenty of reps. So hopefully you kind of look fondly, and I'm glad there's no animosity or anything like that. It's always a good thing to hear from other teams as well. That.
Yeah. So let's flip the coin then, and coming back our way is like I say, we were all gobsmacked because.
Them.
I personally didn't think Chris Ballard would make a move. I think we was maybe discussing a floor raising player and not a ceiling raising player. Maybe a 7th round pick for Logan Wilson, like the Bengals sent to Cowboys. I'm sure the Cowboys fans are happy with that, considering they just got rid of Micah Parsons. But Sauce Gardner coming our way, I suppose my first question is, because I've not watched much of him. I've probably seen one game of his or a couple of highlights of his. And the stuff I've seen, and this might be a wild exaggeration, he could be bang or bust when it comes to play.
Yeah, interesting one. I think that is probably a little bit of an exaggeration.
Yeah.
I think he is a top cornerback. Like yourself, when I think it was Ian Rappaport, when that notification came through, I had to check it wasn't one of those fake accounts. I was like, what the hell? And our WhatsApp group was like, what's going on? Because there was zero indication. And I suppose you might want to know the background and kind of the Jets. Obviously, terrible start to the season. With players like Quinn and Williams, there was a little bit of he could be traded. Like, it was a surprise that he got traded to Dallas. But Sauce got paid in the summer. And it was like, okay, him and Garrett Wilson paid at the same time. He's bought into being a New York Jet. And he still was to the very end. He didn't request a trade or anything like that. Really gracious. Was surprised with the trade. But from what our GM said, he'd built in, with his contract, he'd built in almost like a self-destruct button. So if worst case scenario, Jets were terrible and they needed to reset, his contract was tradable. But there was zero rumblings. He wasn't even thought about as like a trade, like from the Jet side, even NFL wide. So this was like, I think it's probably, I mean, I would say the biggest shock since Parsons. But Parsons, that trade rumors were like rumbling from like the very beginning. With Sauce, there was nothing. So to see him trade him, not only just traded for what he was, but to the Colts, I was like, that. No offense, I don't know.
I'm taking it.
Offense taken.
Feel like a Colts move in the sense of like it doesn't feel like you guys make the big splashes, or at least recently.
No,
again.
No, we don't. We don't.
Like, what is going on? And obviously, great start to the season. It does make sense, but I was surprised at how all in you went on him, and he's a fantastic player. Didn't have as good as a season last season as he did his first couple. But still, like his statistics were still good. Had a good start to this season. Couple of shaky moments, but overall, I think with Sauce, you look at his statistics. The first thing that jumps out is his lack of interceptions. That is totally fair. He is not a interceptions person, and that's for one of two things. One, when they do, first of all, people don't throw his way. It's because he's so sticky, and he does like a little bit of a hold now and then, just saying. People don't throw his way. He's so sticky in coverage. He is so fun to watch. But two, when interceptions do come his way, you know, he's not the greatest catcher of the ball, but you don't need to worry about that. He's a phenomenal player, and it's a little bit emotional because I thought he would be like a cornerstone of the Jets, and he's very gracious. Fantastic character by all stretch, and it's really sad that he's in the New York Jet anymore. I'm glad he went to somewhere like the Colts and not like the Chiefs, if that makes sense. It's sad, but ultimately, obviously we saw what we got back and the compensation. I can see why our GM made it, and he made a comment actually, which I don't know if you picked up on, like kind of the Colts side of things, but he said like Indianapolis came to him a couple of days, had their value, and he said no. The next day they came to him, raised the value, and they slowly raised their value. So they wanted him. They were going to get him, which I think is really interesting. It wasn't a case of, hi NFL, he's Sauce Gardner, give me a price. The Colts kind of, were really after him, which says a lot about how much you guys rate him as well. He is, it was necessary for the Jets to do, considering how bad it's been and how much we need to rebuild. But he's a fantastic player. I've just bought a jersey in the off season as well.
Nice.
I actually wore it on day 2 of the draft. Annoying, incredibly annoying, but you guys are getting a great player. I have nothing but love for him. I hope he does well in Indianapolis, not too well. Again. But yeah, it's bittersweet. It's very, very bittersweet.
Just interested, just because obviously I'm over the moon with Trey because I think he is one of the best corners in the league. I mean, and when you talk about sort of wish lists of potential targets, I saw a few, Sauce Gardner's on there, but it's kind of like one of those that ain't happening. A bit like the Max Crosby, like you talk about certain players, you think they're off limits, it ain't going to happen. So it was very surprised. What I'm interested to know is because what do you think? Sort of, you mentioned it yourself there, but maybe had a bit of a step back maybe last year compared to where he was sort of first couple of years. What do you think maybe, was there anything in particular around it? Was it just the Jets, no offense, was it maybe the team as a whole or is there something maybe his game's changed slightly? Just interested to kind of get your view on that.
Yeah, it is an interesting one. I think, and I don't actually have the statistics to back me up, but I think last year referees were much more on him for holding. It feels like he had a lot more penalties, Whether that was like rightfully so or not, I'm not sure. I'm not to say there was a conspiracy against him or anything like that. He does, like I said, he does like a little bit of a hole, so you just got to be mindful. It felt like the referees were really on him.
Okay.
It obviously the upheaval of Robert Saleh getting fired 6 games in or 5-6 games into the season, that kind of our defense, like as a whole, was shambolic last year.
Okay.
Jeff Ulbrich took in, who was a very good DC, not a very good head coach. I just think there was a lot of change, a lot of upheaval. I think maybe the matchups as well, if I think about our opponents last year, didn't massively favour him. I think this year, apart from like 1 or 2 players, I think he's got back to that kind of level of just, eliteness at times, but certainly good to the fact that players aren't thrown, quarterbacks aren't thrown towards him, which is the highest compliment as a cornerback. I just think last year there was something in the Jets being the Jets.
Right.
Scheme hadn't changed, but I wouldn't read too much into it. But don't get me wrong, there's Jets fans saying, let's trade him for a 2nd or 3rd last year before he signed his contract, and let's cut our losses, which was insane. I think it was just a bit of a head loss. So by the compensation in itself, it shows how good the NFL as a whole rate him, even with his missteps, and maybe he's not the best of the best, but he's certainly close up there on his day.
Nathan, any questions about Sauce?
I mean, I think he is up there as the best of the best, and I think we could probably debate for a long time how cornerbacks like Pat Surtain and Sauce, they almost do the ugly things that your kind of reactionary media don't like. A lot of people have been caught up on the 3 interception thing. I completely agree. But then if you look at, like, I'm going to throw 3 stats so you know. His PFF grade of 90.8 is ranked number 1. His completion rate allowed is 50.3, ranked number 1. And his forced incompletion since he's entered the league is 49, also ranked number 1. Quite frankly, fuck interceptions, because that's going to get my pass rush to the quarterback more. Sorry to swear too. But quite frankly, who cares? Genuinely, I really don't care about that stat. I mean, it's nice when you get pick sixes and stuff, but we've just had a Gus Bradley-led defense for 3 seasons. We didn't see a lot of, smart.
There wasn't a defense.
Fancy defense. We saw
a lot of anything
playing. Yeah. And I can't wait to see Sauce in Lou's system. And I think it's going to be a real headache for opposing teams, because you've got Mooney Ward on one side, who is a lockdown corner, and now you've got Sauce on the other, and it's just pick your poison, and hopefully our pass rush gets home a little bit more. But I wouldn't necessarily say I have a question. I mean, for me, I just would never have assumed Sauce was going to be dealt. He's one of those players that you just, it's kind of like, it'd be like if I saw Amon-Ra St. Brown coming to us, or I don't know, Jackson Smith and Jigba. You just presume that they're going to be with their teams forever. So yeah, I guess I'll bring it back to a question for you, Liv, because I don't have one on Sauce. Would you rather have lost Sauce and Williams, or Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson?
Williams and Sauce all day long. And it's not even the Breece Hall factor, because I do think he probably isn't a Jet next year. It's you're right, especially him signing the new contract in the summer. It felt like he would be a Jet forever, but unfortunately, this is the price of losing. This is the price you pay. Honestly, I think he probably would be if we'd won the Steelers game, and maybe if we edged out Miami and we won 3 wins, 4 wins. But that's the thing is Muji, and fair play to him. He hasn't got everything right. Our general manager, he sat down and think something needs to change. Sauce, like you've said, he's a hell of a player. He is so fun to watch. He'll always have a little special place in my heart, but we weren't winning. We weren't winning. Winning. They aren't for the Jets, and this is not to say he wouldn't be for the Colts. He wasn't a game changer. He wasn't a game winner, which is absolutely fine when you've got them in your team already, which you do. Jets don't. So if you can't give, and this is how we probably view it, if we give Jets fans the option is, yeah, you probably statistically aren't going to draft another Quinn Williams and another Sauce Gardner, but you could potentially draft lesser Sauce Gardner, cornerback, and maybe a third and fourth round, a lesser DT, maybe a veteran pickup or a trade or whatever. But you've got a big swing, and we mean a big swing out of quarterback, and you've got so much flexibility to get a playmaker and wide receiver, an edge rusher. We had, they are kind of the players that the Jets need, like the chaos makers, the ones who will get you that interception, who's going to go, fourth and out when the clock's at like 10 seconds. That's what the Jets need right now, whereas the Colts obviously have that in place. They have got the luxury of going all in. So that's where the Jets are. Is like, we probably won't get another Sauce Gardner, but that's the price you pay for being bad, unfortunately. I do have a question for you guys, though, which has been a little bit of a debate in our WhatsApp group. Is you've gone all in. I think that's fair to say. 2 first rounders. If Daniel Jones, if he suddenly falls off, or maybe has a different performances, or maybe isn't looking like the quarterback he was in the first half of the season, is it, now that you've kind of you've laid your cards on the table, is it a foregone conclusion that he absolutely gets an extension no matter what? Or is it kind of, will you have to pivot, whether that be in the draft or free agency? Or is this Chris Ballard saying, Daniel Jones, you are the player. We've gone and got one of the best cornerbacks in the league. This is your team. Is that him saying that, or do you think there's a little bit of wiggle room for the Colts in the off season?
I'll go first then, just so I can sound extremely clever, and the other two have to copy my opinions on this. But I think this is a move betting on Shane Steichen rather than betting on Daniel Jones. And none of this. I think the thing that's breaking people a little bit is this isn't even Daniel Jones at his best in New York or his best in college. This is a different Daniel Jones that anyone's seen. So we're all a little, as Colt fans, we're all a little bit confused. I know what people are saying. Like, if this doesn't work out, then oh boy, then we're in a bit of a rough place. But I think this is betting on winning a Super Bowl by committee rather than by quarterback. And with the arms race of quarterbacks in the AFC, we've gone the opposite and gone, well, everyone's racing for quarterbacks. We're going to go and build a Pittsburgh level, whenever the famous Pittsburgh was. I can't think of the era, but the famous Pittsburgh defense level, your Legion of Boom defense level, because our secondary on paper now is Tre'Davious Ward, Cam Bynum, Nick Cross, Sauce Gardner, and Kenny Moore. That secondary on paper is number one. So I think it's, for me, this is less about Daniel Jones and more Shane Steichen going, with Daniel Jones, I can get us there. And I'll let Nathan and Ed say what they say on that.
So I actually agree with elements of what Harrison said. Our season is a tale of two halves when you look at schedules, and especially when you look at wide receiver ones. So we've really not had to go against any big names, I would say, other than Cortland Sutton and Puka Nacua. Puka Nacua tore us to shreds single-handedly. Yeah. So I think that's what Sauce is coming in for. I think this is more Carly Ursay-Gordon than I do Chris Ballard, simply because Ballard's contract is done. At the end of this year, it's probably the hottest GM seat in the league, and we don't know. All right, we're 7-2 now. doesn't necessarily mean we're going to make it, right? Look, what happened to Darnold is going to be carbon copy, I think, what happens to Daniel Jones. If he loses to the Chiefs in 2 weeks, that's losses to three of, the kind of AFC's, or two of the AFC's big teams, obviously one of the NFC's big teams. And if he won an out in the playoffs, if we get there, I think his price drastically reduces. Like, okay, we're number one in many, many metrics on offense right now, but it's arguably against kind of, not what is the best of the NFL. I reckon that they're probably praying he'll take 30 a year.
Okay.
Because if I'm his agent, I'm saying don't take a penny less. That's my guess. I mean, I'm certainly no GM, but if I find out that he signs 30 million a year, I'll be happy. If he signs 50, I'll be really sad. Ed?
I see. I think this is them saying this is Daniel Jones's team. I think that in the off season they brought him in to compete. What's transpired and what we've heard sort of subsequently was it wasn't much of a competition. It was basically Daniel Jones was brought in to take the job and make it look like it was competition. I think they've known from day one they want Daniel Jones. We said before the year started when the call was made, I remember it clear as day, we were sat here saying Shane Steichen has got a massive set of stones because he's gone against the whole fan base going with Daniel Jones. Nobody wanted him, if we're being honest. We all wanted Richardson. We wanted him to succeed. Shane Steichen's put his job on the line and he's come out like a house on fire, basically, and he's told us all to shut up in the most effective way. I think there's a lot of belief with Daniel Jones within the building. He had an appalling game last Sunday. We can't ignore that. He was really bad, but the whole team was quite bad. But I don't think it's fair to. It's kind of like it feels like that one game. Everybody kind of jumps back on. Oh, it's Daniel Jones. This is what he does, ignoring the sort of first 8 weeks of the season where he's been pretty damn consistent and playing at a very high level. I don't think you trade away 2 firsts for the next 2 years if you're looking to get a quarterback. Like you're just not that. I think this team is set with Daniel Jones, and I think we're going to have to accept that. Like Nathan says, what that contract looks like will be interesting. We have got a bit of cap space. What I would say as well is Ballard isn't really one for drafting quarterbacks. No. So, I mean, I'm not unhappy about him necessarily trading those first away because I'm not sure I trust him to go and draft another one after Richardson. They sold us this dream on him, and that's... Look,
it was a swing and a miss.
Yeah, look, we could dedicate. We've spoken so much about Anthony Richardson over the last 2 years. I don't want to get into it again, but look, it's not gone the way we were expecting it to go. I still think there's a player in there, funnily enough, like AD Mitchell, but it ain't going to be in Indianapolis now. I think we've all agreed that he's probably not going to come back. So to answer your question, I think they've put their chips into the middle off the back of a 7-2 start and Daniel Jones being the quarterback moving forwards. But I think they've potentially seen. The AFC is wide open this year. It really is. I know everyone's getting really excited about the Chiefs, but they're 5-4 and they've got a tough schedule. We play them in a couple of weeks. Cannot wait for that game. Just from a neutral perspective, that's going to be a really interesting game to watch. Baltimore have fallen off. The Bengals have fallen off. The Patriots in your division, they've come out of nowhere. Maybe not out of nowhere, but they've been very good, haven't they?
Have you seen their schedule? I know,
agreed.
The worst team, and they've still got players twice.
Yeah,
but yeah, you're right. Drake May's been.
I think that, but I think arguably ourselves, the Broncos, the AFC is wide open. So I think they've seen a window, and fair play to them. Do you know what they've gone? Do you know what? We're gonna go for it, and I respect that massively because it's very un-Colts-like, it's massively un-Ballard-like, and I'm here for it. It's 4th down all the way for us now. We're just going for it.
Amazing.
Yeah, so there you go, Liv. You want to know how divisive the Colts fan base is. You've just got 3 different answers to one question.
It's interesting though. I think that's why I love the NFL so much. Because can you imagine telling us that I don't know, back in March, April time, before free agency, we're going to be sat here talking about arguably the best team in the NFL being the Indianapolis Colts who's led by Daniel Jones, and you're going to be discussing with a Jets fan about a trade with Sauce Gardner.
Yeah.
If you put that back in, March, I mean, it wouldn't be massively unbelievable to us, trading our best player, but
Yeah.
I just think that is like so bizarre, and it's like even like a couple of months ago, like it's almost would have been unheard of. So I just think that's why the NFL's so amazing, and like you just have like a Parsons thing, as well. It truly is like Nova, isn't it? So the interesting answers though. I will be looking at the Colts with such intrigue for the rest of the year.
Excellent. Before we let you go, then, because I like to hold Nathan Head a little bit hostage, just a little bit longer. But before we let you go, Liv, one, thanks for coming on and being such an amazing guest. My last question is then, what's the 5-year plan for the Jets? Super Bowl?
You know what? I said it earlier on in the night, but just to get the playoffs, like, do you know how much we would celebrate just getting to the playoffs?
Yeah.
For context, the last time the Jets were in the playoffs was 2010. I would have been 10. I turned 25. I turned 25 tomorrow. That is a long time, and it's like, so just to get to the playoffs would be like so insane. We don't care if we get bounced out by like yourselves or the Bills like in a year or two. Just to make it there would be an achievement. But number one, draft your franchise quarterback, easy. Yeah. Number two, just gut the team out. Like you've got to draft well. That's what Joe Douglas didn't do well. He drafted well in terms of first rounders, couldn't build a team. Then went all in on Aaron Rodgers, who, if Daniel Jones doesn't work out, he's a free agent come next year. He could be a Colt. No, I'm joking. You've got to gut the team out. You've got to draft right. Stop spending crazy money on overrated, over-the-hill players. Stop panicking. Leave Woody Johnson to manage Crystal Palace and nowhere near New Jersey. Just kind of having maybe a Ted Lasso kind of leave him nowhere near America. And then, next year you've got to start winning. Just win game, a winning season in the next 5 years would be it's so pathetic. I do appreciate if any Colts fans listen, they must think, oh gosh, what's going on over there?
We've been there.
Yeah, Indiana sports at the minute is I don't know if you follow any of the sports, but it's having a bit of a golden era, isn't it? The minute with the Pacers and stuff like that. So yeah, it's sad to be sat here saying about how we're losing Sauce, and he's given some really great memories of the Jets fan, but you've got to use it now. You've got to rebuild that team, get your franchise quarterback. We've not had one maybe since Mark Sanchez kind of, but Pennington, it's been a while. Give Jets fans something they can cheer on. Give Aaron Glenn a chance, and just like I said, just make a playoff game, please. Break the streak. Yeah. So that not much of a plan, but more of a prayer and a hope. Maybe one day it'll turn around and it'll be just so much sweeter, won't it, when you've supported such a bad team for so long.
Yeah. And the NFL is a 1-week league. We all know it. But everyone that's been Liv, she's been our guest. Kindly come on. You can find it. What's your at again, Liv?
So if you want to come and join our Jets suffering group for whatever reason, or want to witness us suffering as a fan base, the fan group is the UK NY Jets, and we cover the UK and Ireland. And it's more like a therapy kind of fan group at the moment. Follow us. We would love to, take care of Sauce. We would love him to do amazing. He went out very nicely. No animosity. And I hope he does great for you guys. So follow us, UK NY Jets.
Liv, thank you very much. And we look forward to taking on the Jets fan base as well when we eventually take on the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. We look forward to you guys having our back. But thank you so much and see you later.
Happy birthday as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Liv. What a fantastic guest. Ed, Nathan, before we go, let's chat about a few things, because just quick thoughts on the game on Sunday. I mean, I turned it off at the end of the third quarter because that was just such bullcrap. That's not the Colts, and I hate it because it's such a narrative loss, and it really pisses me off because it just feeds the narrative, and that's why I was so annoyed. But quick thoughts on the game.
One of them, mate. Move on. It happens. Good teams have shit games. It's as simple as that. As far as I'm concerned, forget about it and move on.
Yeah.
I actually agreed to turn it over 6 times and lose by 7 for our defense to keep Rodgers to like 210 yards,
Yeah,
I
it
think, or
wasn't a lot.
220.
Yeah.
I just thought it was like, if that's our kind of whoops game,
Yeah.
I'll take it. Do you know what I mean?
It was just just one of them days where you're like, I've got a banging hangover. There's too much work in. I just need to go home and get in bed. Like, and I don't know about you guys, but the field looked more like a sandpit.
And notoriously, we don't do well at Pittsburgh, do we?
No.
And I was like, what is going? That's a premium NFL team, and the field looked like just a 4G pitch or something. It was mad. But
I think ironically, you hit the nail on the head there, Nathan. Our defense probably had their best game of the year. Funnily enough, it was our offense that decided to have a weekend off, weren't it? It's just the defense actually showed up really well. Oh well.
I do think that's sort of Shane Steichen's style, though. It's either glory or go down with the ship. But anyway, enough of that because we've got Germany coming up. Me and Nathan are very, very gratefully going to be in Germany to watch the Colts take on the Atlanta Falcons, who are a sporadic and weird team. Nobody can quite work out at the minute. You know, they either get taken all the way by the bad teams, or they take the good teams all the way. It's such a weird team.
The Panthers shut them out, didn't they?
Yep.
Yeah, honestly, mate.
Yeah,
they are such a strange team. Just go and look at their season record. It's crazy, but we've been going just over an hour now, and I think that's all we've had to talk about. Like we say, just quickly, Liv was an amazing guest and gave us some great insight into Sauce Gardner and what it's looking like for the Jets. Ed and Nathan, anything else before we go?
I would say that obviously anybody who follows the page and sees us in Berlin, obviously we'd love to connect. Want to connect with as many people as we can when we're there. But no, I think it's kind of fascinating bill, isn't it? You know, the Falcons come in as one of the most frustrating teams in the league, and the Colts have just come off their worst performance. It's going to be fascinating, and I'm actually really glad you haven't asked for a prediction because I don't know. Don't know how it's going to go. What I am expecting is, I thought the offensive line was terrible last week, which I didn't think I'd say this year. And I'm expecting a huge bounce back from them. I mean, maybe some of us getting lost. I did some research before the show. Falcons are the number 4 ranked defense in the league. O-line's got to be better. Ed?
That's interesting. I mean, there's 2 things I want to say. One, obviously, whilst we're on air, we've seen the news that Buckner's not going to play.
Yeah.
That's a big loss. No, there's no point dressing it up. That's a huge, huge loss for the team.
They want to run defense anyway.
Pardon?
They want to run defense anyway.
No. So that's a massive, massive concern. I just want to say safe travels to absolutely everybody who's making the trip. I hope you have a fantastic time, and I hope the Colts show up, show out, and just have a great time is what I'd say. Just enjoy the experience.
Yeah, and thanks for joining us. And join us on Monday after, I'm really going to jinx this now, after the Indianapolis Colts 47, the Atlanta Falcons 6. I'll be fine. See you all later.